and welcome to the Retirement Blueprint Show. I'm your host, Paul Gebhard, with a good friend here, Tim Lofton. Tim, how you doing today, buddy?
Great, Paul. How are you?
Good, good. It's good to be with you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Ready to talk about some more Buckeye football.
Buckeye football. I can tell that's a big deal. If you missed a previous episode, I had my Ohio State Buckeye tie on.
You
completely
did.
Unplanned.
Completely unplanned, but very Herb Street looking nonetheless.
Very Herb Street, like with a white beard.
Yeah.
See it, right? So listen, first of all, I got to just tell you, the retirement blueprint, I mean, that just sounds like automatic. That's a slam dunk to me, because you wouldn't build a house without a good blueprint.
Right.
So having a blueprint in retirement just seems like a no-brainer to me.
Well, having a plan, a written plan, is the absolute key to a successful retirement. So many times we meet with people, and I would say more often than not, where they're coming in and we ask them, well, what's your retirement plan? And they said, well, we've got it all figured out. And a lot of times they'll have a report or even a 3-ring binder, and they'll say, here it is. And so I usually don't even open it up, and I just say, well, what's in there? And they said, well, it's our plan, and it basically says that we've got this amount of money, and we can take this withdraw from it, and we'll be okay. Okay. What else? I mean, well, what happens if something goes wrong? And they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, it was drilled into my head as an infantry officer. You spend about 20% of your time figuring out a plan, and about 80% of your time figuring out what you're going to do when that plan doesn't work out. Because it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when.
Absolutely.
And how many
right.
times,
oh,
right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
That's life.
Well, let's just point to COVID.
Yeah.
Let's just use that. Who saw that coming, right?
COVID, murder hornets, all in 1 year, and we were a change shortage. I mean,
change.
What else? What else could possibly go wrong?
I totally forgot about the change shortage.
And 1 year, we had all of these things, and so the disruption is only an issue if you don't have a plan.
Yeah.
If you have a plan in place, and a written plan, the chances of something happening that you're not planned for just become far less likely.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times people refer to that Monte Carlo simulation, that they have a certain probability of success. And I'll ask them, well, what is that based on? And they'll say, well, with the amount of money I have and the amount of money that I'm going to take out, as long as I average a 5 or 6%, which I was told was very conservative, that I've got a 90% chance of success. And I said, okay, well, what does that mean you have a 10% chance of? Yeah. And they're like, not success. I'm like, yeah, I mean, there's a 10% chance that things go wrong. And I said, that's, in retirement, that's a little concerning, because when they go wrong, they don't go wrong at the beginning. They go wrong at the very end.
Yeah, it's never opportune, right?
No, it happens when you're 85 and 90. It's not like you go back to work.
Right.
And then I'll ask them, well, what happens if you don't get that imaginary 5 or 6% return?
Yeah.
But I was told that was conservative. Yeah, it is, but I'm a study of economic history. I've got a degree in economics, and I know that there's a 25-year period with a 0% return, an 18-year period with a 0% return, a couple 10-year periods with a 0% return. What if that happens in your retirement?
Right. And
that 10% does kick in. What happens?
Oh, yeah.
You run out of money.
Yeah.
And that's the number one fear of every retiree.
Oh.
I mean, every study that's ever been done, that's the number one thing people are concerned about, and yet they don't have a written plan to keep that from happening.
Gosh, that's so true. That's so true. And you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it becomes not so much the loss of the money. We all know that's important. But it's the time you can't recover.
Right.
It's not renewable. And at 85 years old, that's the bad time to figure out that, hey, you know what? That return's not coming.
Well, the calculation of, most people are going to spend 25, 30 plus years in retirement. A lot of times, almost as much time as they spent working. And so those many years putting money away are going to be those many years taking money out.
Yeah.
And it deserves that level of expertise. We tell people, when you retire, you become the CEO of your retirement corporation. You're in charge. And the people that you hire to work for you, as the CEO, if those people mess up, they still go home and eat dinner.
Yeah.
If they mess up for you, you don't. You're the one that suffers, and so you have to pick wisely. You have to have good people that you trust that know what they're doing.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I feel like, when we built the retirement blueprint and trademarked that process, that was our intent, was to give people the framework to be able to guarantee themselves a pathway and help navigate to and through retirement.
That's good stuff. I love the concept. Again, I just think it's phenomenal. You wouldn't build a house without one, so
No.
why would you plan on retirement? When you and I both know anything can happen at any time. And you'd mentioned something earlier. I think I was reading an article the other day that one of the biggest challenges to your nest egg is a health catastrophe of some sort, right? And how important that is as far as one of the cornerstones, right? How they plan for that. Could you share a little bit about the long-term
Sure.
care planning and health side?
So, a lot of times when we talk to people about, having a healthcare expense, their mind typically goes to a big surgery. And we actually have a client that had a heart replacement surgery. 7 figures surgery. Medicare paid almost the whole thing. So if you have Medicare and a good supplement, your concerns are not really with health events. Where it gets you, where it sneaks up on you, is really in the terms of a nursing home stay or a long-term care stay. And of course, there's a misunderstanding there that Medicare is going to pick up that tab. I have the conversation and people say, well, I know that Medicare will pay for a portion of that. I'm like, not really. Well, it says it will pay 120 days. I'm like, I, in 27 years, have never seen anyone get 120 days paid for. It
Really?
just doesn't happen.
Really?
Because the rules aren't designed to allow somebody to stay 120 days. It's typically for a rehab, or they were sick or they had a fall and they're into a nursing home for a limited amount of time, and the rules say you've got to be continuing to get better. If you stop getting better, they stop paying. Once you get better, they send you home. So the idea that you're going to go in for, say a chronic reason or a long-term reason, that's out of pocket. That's not covered, and a lot of times that piece is missed. So it's that planning behind what you're going to do is extremely important.
Yeah, I understand. I guess it could be in some cases, long-term care plans can cost you $10,000 a month for care in a facility, right? I mean, is that
it's
accurate number?
Oh, it is an accurate number. In fact, that's a median number. Wow. Here in Ohio, we're building long-term care facilities like crazy. I mean, you drive around the Dayton area and there's a new one going up every corner. And the idea is, you look at the statistics, there's 7 people every minute of every day turning 65.
Yeah, they're planning for the aging population.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so the infrastructure is being built, but the concern is how do I plan for it? Because I can go to over 55 community, and if I'm living on my own inside the community, and it might be $5,000 a month, or I can be in a Alzheimer's unit and it's $14,000 a month. That's a $9,000 delta. How do I plan for, and that's in today's dollars, Paul. What do I look at 20 years, 30 years down the road when, $14,000 is $28,000 is $30,000 a month.
Yeah, that's outrageous.
How do I plan for that?
Gosh, how do you really?
So, that's where the planning comes into play, and we actually have a process of taking people through, the 6 or 7 different options and helping our viewers at home basically see, here's what the costs are, here's what you can do, and being very creative behind the ideas that we come up with. We do a lot of out-of-the-box thinking with that planning.
I love that. We got to take a short break, but before we do that, there's some slots available for complete consultation. Meet with Tim and his team. Total of 10. Pick up that phone, make that call, and change your life. Just make sure you've got the financial peace of mind you need. 855-684-3485. Stay with us. We'll be back after this short break.
As you prepare for, transition into, and navigate retirement, there's one thing you're sure to have: questions. Lots of questions about retirement. Like, when can I retire? Will I run out of money? Who pays for nursing home care? And many, many more.
Axum Planning and Wealth Management uses the Beta Blueprint retirement planning software to help answer your questions.
This program takes stacks of documents from every area of your financial life and converts them into one large picture. Just as you would never buy a house without seeing it first, why would you ever retire without being able to visualize it? By being able to see the whole picture, you can then make better decisions about your retirement. First, the blueprint looks at your top goals and concerns. Then, we look at your age and the trigger age decisions you have to make, like when to take Social Security, Medicare, and required minimum distributions. Next, we analyze your fixed income streams and compare that to your retirement lifestyle. For most people, their lifestyle exceeds their income, so we determine which assets to tap to make up the difference. When looking at assets, there are 3 key numbers we want you to know. The first number is the risk score of what you own. Every investor has a risk tolerance, and every investment has a risk score. The risk scale runs from 1 to 99, and the S&P 500 has a score of 78. We use a scientific framework that won the Nobel Prize for Economics for its ability to identify true risk tolerance. If you were taking too much risk, when would you want to know? The second number we want to know is the maximum drawdown of what you own. Maximum drawdown is the maximum loss from a market peak to a market trough. The maximum drawdown of the S&P 500 in 2008 was about 51%. What was the maximum drawdown of what you own? And the third number is your annual withdrawal rate percent. If you're taking too much here, you could run out of money. Finally, we look at your insurance and long-term care. Do you have life insurance? If so, what type, and does it expire? We analyze the income reduction from losing a spouse. We want to know if the surviving spouse will be protected. Have you planned for long-term care? Do you know all your health care options? Being able to put all this information in picture format is like watching holistic planning come to life. Your financial picture helps us identify the potential cracks and red flags in your overall retirement plan. Remember, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Discover the power of the picture for your retirement. Learn how to get a blueprint of your life.
Hello and welcome back to the Retirement Blueprint Show. I'm your host, Paul Gebhard, with my buddy Tim Lofton here. We're having a good time and break, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know. You were sharing with me a little bit about the Retirement Blueprint. Could you kind of paint a picture of what that looks like when a viewer comes in and they sit down with you? What does that look like, Tim?
Well, the first part is pretty boring because they come in and we have a process that we take everyone through. They go through the exact same process where it's a question and answer. It's a get to know you. And, we talk about all the time that people end up with, usually some sort of plan of what they already have and then how am I going to make it work? Versus somebody starting from the ground up and actually building a plan designed specifically for them. But our process is, most of the time people are coming in with that 3-ring binder. They've got statements and they have tax information and their estate plan and will, and it's all in this binder. And so they give that to us, and we put it up on a single sheet of paper. That's our blueprint planning sheet. And that blueprint planning sheet allows everything to go in black and white to where they can see exactly how things look in retirement. And it takes it out year by year, talks about the taxes and all the different things that are going to happen. The other thing that we do for them within the income plan is building out what we call our 3-bucket sheet. And that basically shows, okay, once we have all of this stuff planned for, now we have to actually put it and assign it a job. And so sometimes its job may be for income, sometimes it might be for growth, sometimes it might be to cover that long-term care expense that we were talking about right before break. And then lastly, putting together that risk-alize report, that I mentioned before, where we take everything that they own, our wealth management team sits down with the individuals and actually puts a report together that shows them exactly how it sits today, what that risk looks like, and then is able to talk to them about how that did in 2008, how it did in 2013 when things were good. What happens if interest rates increase? I don't know if you've heard this or not, but there is a rumor that interest rates are going to increase.
Really?
Oh, they've been awfully low for about 20 years now, right?
I was getting ready to say, I mean, it's been a long time.
I've been saying, I think for 15 years, interest rates are going to go up.
Yeah.
I think they actually are going to start to go up at some point. And then, of course, the tax implications. And, we should talk about that next week, because we've gotten a lot of calls the last 2 weeks from viewers at home asking about taxes. So I think maybe that's something that we should kind of focus on next week and talk about that.
Let's do that. Let's say I'm comfortable, though, Tim. I mean, I've got a financial planner I've had forever, The importance of a second opinion. How important is it to have an objective point of view from someone else?
I think it's an awfully small commitment for something that's that important. When you think about, and everybody we sit down with, for the most part, has some semblance of a feeling of things are good, right? And most of the time they are. You have a married couple that you're sitting down, they've got a strong pension and a lot of money coming in from Social Security. They've done a good job of saving. Most of the people we sit down with don't have any debt. They don't even owe anything on their house. And so they feel good. The problems really lie in the what ifs. What if your spouse passed away? What if something happened with your pension? I mean, we had a client, this is a number of years ago, flew for Delta Airlines and did everything right. They saved for retirement. They had no debt. They did a great job. And one day went to the mailbox, opened up a letter from Delta that said, "You're not going to get your pension anymore." Just like that.
Wow.
A third of their income went away.
Gone.
And so, when we think about planning, it's not necessarily what you see today. It's what needs to be prepared for in the future. And I think that's really what sets us apart. That's what makes us different. But understanding that a lot of times people are coming in worried about things that they shouldn't be worried about, but they're not worried about things that they should be worried about. And that's really, with our process, it points to those things. And you know what? They've got nothing to lose. They're under no obligation to work with us.
So they don't have to bring a checkbook in or anything like that right away?
No, they leave their checkbook at home. Twice last week, we sat down with people that were absolutely great right where they were. And we told them that, and we sent them on their way. And they were so appreciative to hear from us that, we're not going to try and, I don't sell timeshares for a living. I mean, we're there to help.
Yeah.
And even when we put these plans together, people have to decide whether or not they want us to fix it or if they want somebody else to fix it. Yeah. But at least we leave them better off than we found them. And it gives them an opportunity to be able to see the holes in their plan, if there is one, and get suggestions on how they might fix it.
Or if they just need an adjustment. Maybe sometimes it's just a small adjustment because something's gone off track.
And a perfect example of that is we see sometimes where people have their highly taxable investments in something that is a taxable account, and they're more tax-friendly investments in a non-taxable account. And we've seen our wealth management team say, "Why don't you just flip-flop those?
Yeah.
Just flip them.
Yeah.
And, and you're good right where you are." And so sometimes it can be that simple.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't you want to have somebody tell you this is great?
To do something that makes such a big difference, right, in the long term.
Especially if it's been a bunch of years.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, listen, we got to take a break, but again, phone lines are lighting up. There's some spots available for that free consultation. Please reach out to Tim and his team. They're here to help you. That's what this is about. Have a plan, have a strategy. The most important thing you can do is pick up the phone, take an action. That's your job. 855-684-3485. 855-684-3485. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these messages. Stay with us.
As you prepare for, transition into, and navigate retirement, there's one thing you're sure to have: questions. Lots of questions about retirement. Like, when can I retire? Will I run out of money? Who pays for nursing home care? And many, many more.
We use the Beta Blueprint retirement planning software to help answer your questions.
This program takes stacks of documents from every area of your financial life and converts them into one large picture. Just as you would never buy a house without seeing it first, why would you ever retire without being able to visualize it? By being able to see the whole picture, you can then make better decisions about your retirement. First, the blueprint looks at your top goals and concerns. Then, we look at your age and the trigger age decisions you have to make, like when to take Social Security, Medicare, and required minimum distributions. Next, we analyze your fixed income streams and compare that to your retirement lifestyle. For most people, their lifestyle exceeds their income, so we determine which assets to tap to make up the difference. When looking at assets, there are 3 key numbers we want you to know. The first number is the risk score of what you own. Every investor has a risk tolerance, and every investment has a risk score. The risk scale runs from 1 to 99, and the S&P 500 has a score of 78. We use a scientific framework that won the Nobel Prize for economics for its ability to identify true risk tolerance. If you were taking too much risk, when would you want to know? The second number we want to know is the maximum drawdown of what you own. Maximum drawdown is the maximum loss from a market peak to a market trough. The maximum drawdown of the S&P 500 in 2008 was about 51%. What was the maximum drawdown of what you own? And the third number is your annual withdrawal rate percent. If you're taking too much here, you could run out of money. Finally, we look at your insurance and long-term care. Do you have life insurance? If so, what type, and does it expire? We analyze the income reduction from losing a spouse. We want to know if the surviving spouse will be protected. Have you planned for long-term care? Do you know all your health care options? Being able to put all this information in picture format is like watching holistic planning come to life. Your financial picture helps us identify the potential cracks and red flags in your overall retirement plan. Remember, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Discover the power of the picture for your retirement. Learn how to get a blueprint of your life.
Hello and welcome back to the Retirement Blueprint Show. I'm your host, Paul Gebhard, with my buddy here, Tim Lofton. Tim, thank you again for being with us, buddy. Some wonderful, wonderful information on retirement. But I had someone ask, we have a viewer question about Social Security. And I was wondering if you could help us with this one. This is a good one. What are the most important things to do when planning to take Social Security?
Wow. That's a great question. I don't know if we can do it in the time we have left with the show. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
So, I've said before, there's over 500 different ways to claim Social Security.
Yeah.
And, I have never seen all of those used. In fact, I've not really seen more than about 10 or 15 different ways used. But one of the things to understand is your choices. And that's one of the things when we're building an income plan for people, sometimes your Social Security is dictated to you. In other words, you're going to retire at 62, you don't have another source of income, and you have to turn that on because you just have to.
Yeah.
Other times, you don't need it. We have, we work real close to Wright-Patt Air Force Base, and so we have a lot of people that get their 30 years in that retire, and they're, in their 50s. And so they actually go back to work. And so they're in a position a lot of times where they can delay Social Security all the way to age 100. I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, you had me on that one.
All the way to 100.
Wow. Yeah.
They'll never get it.
What?
No, it's age 70.
Okay.
I was just making sure you're paying attention,
yes.
Paul.
I just passed the test. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Age 100. Yeah, just making sure you're paying attention. Our viewers at home are just like, what? He said age 1. Yeah. So
He was kidding.
I was
Mildred.
kidding. He's kidding. Age 70, from full retirement age to age 70, the Social Security actually gives you 8% return each year while that's building, and so that could be a very powerful thing as a spousal continuity plan. If, for example, let's say that for just sample, my wife. Social Security, I claim half of hers, and I don't claim mine till age 70, so that I get the maximum of mine at age 70. If something happens to me and I were to pass away, then she will be able to take my higher Social Security. So a lot of times that's how we can fit that gap in there. Another thing that a lot of times people don't know about is if you were married for 10 years or more and went through a divorce, you can actually claim Social Security on your ex-spouse.
Really?
Which a lot of times people don't know about. We actually had, we teach college courses sometimes for retirees, and we had a lady in one time. She said, "Well, 10 years, huh? If I'm married," she's like, "Well, I had 2 5s, but I didn't have a 10."
Can I accumulate the marriage?
Is it cumulative? And
That's awesome.
I said, that is probably the best question I've ever been asked in my career. 27 years, you win.
Yeah.
I mean, that was fantastic. No 2 5s. It has to be 10 years to the same person. But anyway, I mean, there's just all these different ways that you can defer, and people get caught up a lot of times in 2 things. One is that break-even point. In other words, if I do delay, how old do I have to be before I'm actually making more money? And that's a lot of times at 80, 82 years old. And a lot of times people look at it and say it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And that's a fine answer. The other thing that sometimes people look at is, what if it's not there? That fear of, that Social Security is going to somehow just go poof and go away.
That's probably a big one for a lot of folks. They think that's coming right now.
They do, and I mean, it doesn't help that on the website for the last 20 years on Social Security, it says by 2030, whatever, you're only guaranteed like 70-some or 80-some% of your number. I mean, that doesn't help.
Yeah, a little bit alarming for sure.
But I mean, if you think about it, Washington operates on getting reelected, and the person that says Social Security is going away or going down, that's political suicide. So I'm not saying that it can't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, after COVID and murder hornets and all the other crazy stuff we had last
endured.
year,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
anything can happen.
Yeah, true.
Coin shortage.
Yes.
But I don't think Social Security is going to go away. Could it change? Absolutely. I mean, it's like taxes. I mean, they're fluid. There's an ebb and flow to it.
Yeah.
But the idea that it's going to completely go away, I don't see that as a real possibility.
Got it. Listen, we're coming to about the end of the show. I want to thank you so much, Tim, for being with us again today.
Of course.
So much incredible information. There's a few spots left available for those complimentary consultation with Tim and his team. Put them to work for you guys, right? Let Tim do what it takes to build your retirement blueprint. Answer those questions. Calm those anxieties. Put yourself in a better position, right? That's what it's about. And it leaves us with this one final question. What do you want your tomorrow to look like? Find out today. Give Tim and his team a call. The number on the screen is 855-684-3485. Again, that's 855-684-3485. We want to thank you for being with us today. We really enjoyed having you with us. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Take care of yourselves.